early morning Sunday show. You watch it. Music, excitement, fun. Cat? Nope. Nope.
Hey, good morning. It's another early morning show, and you're watching it. And I say thank you for that. Welcome. Welcome to the hostess, to the host with the most. That would be Cat. Don't know where he's at, but as soon as he starts hearing me talking, I'm sure he's going to be right down here. And then there's me, the co-host of the show, shall we say. In the background today, we have Jane Lee Hooker, a hard rock blues band based out of New York. I think this was their debut in 2006, No B. It's an all-female blues rocker band. These gals really like to play their blues very, very hard. I believe they've had a second album out also. They're still out and going. So we have that happening today. I see the host is coming down the steps. I'll show you this book I picked up. The Healy Baby Days. This is of beach music, stories and remembrances of a southern music genre that I'm not that familiar with. They have listed on here, the Box Tops was part of it, the Jesters, Wilbur Walter, Candyman. I'm not sure what to expect, but no, just hold on. Wait. I'm showing the book. Can you wait? God bless it. So, I mean, this thing is a lot of pictures. I mean, it's heavy. This is one heavy. I don't know how I can even put this book in a bookshelf. It's so freaking big. I mean, it's over 500 pages, but this thing's giant. And I will tell you this, it added 10 pounds to my luggage. 10. God, it was on a clearance price, some place in Dayton, Ohio, some bookstore I was unfamiliar with. It was a really cool bookstore, really, really neat. 2-story high thing. Must be more of a local, but wow, I saw that. I go, that thing's so heavy. And it says it was used or whatever. It was wrapped up in great looking shape, so need to tap. Why are you doing that to me? Why? Knock it off. I think he wants back outside already. Okay, at 2 o'clock this morning. Meow, 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 meow. Let me out. Well, forget it. I'm not getting out of bed for you, you know? All right, let's begin, okay? Because we got some stuff to show. We're going to start off with this group here. It's called Jungle Fire. This is their third album. I just got this on Friday from Coleman Records. Cat's settling in. It's on black vinyl. Jungle Fire. It's from Los Angeles. It's a Tropicana funk type of music. This is their self-titled third album that just came out. They formed in 2010. Actually, it's just 6 guys in college got together and let's jam. And they just began jamming. And they really liked what was going on. And they decided to form a group. Well, eventually that 6 became 10. As they went to record. And of those 10, 3 of them played percussion. They really liked the sound of the Latin sound, but also funk. I mean, they were inspired by James Brown, Fela Kuti, and War. That's where they took inspiration from this. And this is just a fun, marvelous album if you like Latin Afro type music. It's based, some of it, I would say, off Cumbria. And when you look at Cumbria, this was a compilation that I bought years ago. Well, not years ago, maybe about 7-8 years ago. And this is the Afro Sounds of Colombia, Volume 1. And it really goes into Cumbria music, which comes out of Colombia. And it has this Afro-type feel to it. When you're listening to it, you can hear the Kuti influences from Africa, but it's heavily tinged with the Latin percussion. So it gives it the drive and the groove. You listen to this, you hear a lot of the sounds of the Buddhist band is in there, and I think of that more because of just the hard saxophones that are going on. Just really neat. There's a psyche feel to some of the songs. I think of K-Milo as one. You listen to that, it just has this kind of a psyche type thing on there. There's sax, there's surf guitar happening, cool artwork, just really neat. So Jungle Fever is the name. Check them out. You can, if you hook up them, if you look on YouTube, they put some of their music out there, and I really enjoyed this. It's all instrumental, and it's from the Coal Mine group, so you have that soul funk type of feel, but this is tropical funk. Cool stuff. And from Glasgow, let's go over to Glasgow. We're going to bring in the Telescopes. And this is the Telescopes' second album. And it is on beautiful colored vinyl, obviously. It's a reissue. Telescopes formed in, when was it? 1989. This is their second album from 1992 that they put out. It's kind of, I guess you might say, English noise, space rock, a little bit of a psych band. They're all over the place. They're still out there recording. They have 11 albums on a lot of different labels. And they do keep changing the music that they put out. When you look at their influences, if you were to ask them, especially coming down, when they began, it was Suicide, Velvet Underground, and 13th Floor Elevators. All groups talked a lot about that have influenced a lot of other groups. And that's where they got their inspiration from. Their first album, which I don't have, but I had read was a lot noisier. So this one was a little bit calmer. It still has some of that kind of the psych feel to it. So you get some of that, but again, just kind of some loud noise going on. It was different. It wasn't bad. It's not a rocker by any chance. It does seem a little more subdued. I've listened to it a few times. I got it off Bomb Records. It was a pretty good price on there. It was an okay album. I'll play a snippet. You can kind of hear and decide what you think about that. But it's called The Telescopes. Oh, and the name of this album, it's untitled. They call it the #2 untitled album. So, hey, all right, whatever works for you, right? Low reggae, maybe? This was a neat pickup. I was happy to find this. And that's Johnny Nash. I Can See Clearly Now. I love this. This came out in 1972. My day as a youngster listening to AM radio. This was a big part of it. It was Johnny Nash himself. He's from Houston. Now, he was born in 1940. And he was one of the very first non-Jamaican singers to be allowed to record a reggae album in Jamaica. That's how big he was. He became in the 50s, he was a pop singer. Then but he was also an actor, and he did some film work in the 60s. And in 65, he started his own record label. And what was interesting is on that record label, one of the first groups he brought in was the Cowsills. Now, if you remember, Cowsills were just one of those fun, clean groups. You had the Rolling Stones and the Animals and the Beatles, and playing that loud, hippie kind of music. But we have the Cowsills. Cowsills were happy. They were wholesome. Made you feel safe. Like the Partridge Family. Like they thought the Monkees were. So that happened, and it's like, okay. But it was off his label. Now, this is recorded on, you see that? Epic. So he formed this label. In 68, he went to Jamaica. And when he was in Jamaica, he met this struggling artist in his band. It was Bob Marley and the Wailers. And they were having a hard time. So he signed them, and they did some singles together. But they never really did much. So, Marley moved on. But on this album, he has 4 Bob Marley songs on here. This was done 72, so these were early. And one of them is Stir It Up. Stir it up, little darling. It's like, wow, this is really, really neat. Of course, the hit I Can See Clearly Now. I can see clearly now the rain has gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Really a nice upbeat song. It has a reggae feel, but to me this is kind of vanilla reggae, watered down reggae. It definitely has that beat, but it's really a lot more soulful. Reggae for the masses, shall we say. Well, this album went to number 4, or I Can See Clearly Now became it sold over 1 million. It was number 4 for number 1. It went to number 1 for 4 weeks. I Can See Clearly Now it did. So it did extremely well in the charts. I was just happy. I love finding these songs from when I was young from AM radio, and that definitely was a big find for me. This was a neat one, and I was unaware of this. In my local record store, Radio Wasteland, Jim got this in, and talk about cool. This is War. It's an album from 1976. But what it is, it's outtakes from when Eric Burdon was with them, from 69 to 71. It's a really, what makes this interesting is they do these covers. They have from the Beatles, A Day in the Life. They do the cover of Painted Black from the Rolling Stones, but it's really brought down, and it uses a lot of flute. There is a Tobacco Road cover of that. And I'm going to play a snippet of this one, Love Is All Around by Love. It's really interesting to hear War doing these songs. Obviously War was big. They had just recently put out these songs. There it is. They had Lowrider, Why Can't We Be Friends? All of that had just recently come out. So why not raid the vaults and see what else we have of War? I'd never seen this album out there before. So it was just super excited when Jim got this in, and then I had to make sure he didn't keep it in his collection, and said, I'll buy it right away. And I did. I actually said, here, keep it for a week. I'll come back in a week and play the heck out of it, enjoy it. So, oh man, that's nice. That was a nice pickup for a War, a group that I truly, truly love. And so does that first group, Jungle Free. They love War awesome. That's 2 of us out there really digging their sounds. Now something a little newer. This came out in, I believe, 2018. But it's the third album. It's from the Chvrches. And there we go. It's a 3-piece band. And these guys are out of Glasgow. Did I say the Telescope was out of Glasgow? I might have. Telescopes, I don't believe. They weren't out of Glasgow. Sorry. But the Chvrches are. 3-piece band. Synth pop, indie pop, shall we call it? I actually have their debut. I think I have their second one on CD, but I never had their third one. Barnes & Noble thing. I thought, hey, half price, let me get this. Has Lane Cook, Martin Daugherty, I believe. They got together in college back in 2003, began putting some music together, but never really made a group till 2011. And then they brought in Lauren Mayberry, and she was a drummer and a vocalist and quite good looking, so how could you go wrong with that? And surprisingly, they made her the front woman. But they all share in everything. They all do their own parts. You know, Mayberry kind of writes the lyrics and the hooks. Daugherty has comes up with a lot of the different type of ideas, and Cook does, you know, publishes a lot of the, produces a lot of the songs. This one though, they brought in a different producer. They're trying to get more of a mainstream album. What they did is it's a darker album, and really the whole thing around it is the way the world is now. Is love really worth it? Is there? Can we still have love? And they tackle some dark topics like refugees, you know, all the boats that sunk in the Mediterranean. Again, they're from England, and the bodies that washed up on the shore. I mean, this is the kind of dark stuff that they have. You know, there's some very dark undertones on this. You know, so it was a different album. It's called Love Is Dead, and Cat is back and just being a booger. So really enjoyed it. You know, that one on refugees, the name of the song is called Graves. So there you go. I don't know how well this thing really did. It's okay. You know, I like the first Chvrches better. You know, obviously it's called Chvrches. They put a V in there, but still you pronounce it Chvrches. But they figured, if they called it Chvrches with the U, you go online to look it up. Are you really going to find them? Probably not. Put a V in there, we're easy to find. You got to think that way now, right? Here is the download card. If someone would like to listen to the Chvrches or pull that up, first come, first serve. Take a look at that. And feel free to have a Chvrches album. Porgy and Bess, pick this up. It's a repress 100. It's actually done in mono mic. There you go. We got a little mono happening here. Columbia 6i reproduction. Came out in 1959. Actually, I believe before or after Kinda Blue. Now I can't remember. This was their second Miles' second collaboration with Gil Evans, and it's done more in the modal. It's orchestrated jazz. You know, by now in 1958, Miles was kind of done with bop. It's been used, been done. I want to move on, and that's where he came up with modal, which I've talked about a lot, about using scale changes instead of chord changes when you make your music. What George Gershwin had an opera that he'd done in 1935 is Porgy and Bess, and they thought, hey, let's give this a try. What can we do to make this into a jazz piece? It took 4 sessions, just 4 sessions, and they knocked out this album, Porgy and Bess. It is one of the best selling Miles Davis albums. For me, when I first got it, I got it on CD and I listened to it, and I didn't like it. It didn't appeal to me. It was too orchestrated. It didn't have that bop feel going on. There was just too much lushness, I thought. It really wasn't what I enjoyed. And I didn't play it for a lot of years. Well, other people have talked about it. I've gotten older. And I saw this, and again, I believe this was part of that Barnes & Noble pickup, half price. Well, how could you say no for half price? I mean, I got it for $13. So I picked it up. I listened to it, and I really enjoyed it. Just goes to show it can change. I haven't listened to it in years. But now I listen, I get it. I got it. We get older. So I was really happy, again, to get that, to put it in another Miles on vinyl. Porgy and Bess. One of his all-time best-selling albums, even though I did not give it a good review when it came out. Keeping with jazz, how about this one? The Three Sounds Black Orchid. These guys are out of Benton Harbor, Michigan. That's over on the other side of the state where I live. It's on the Lake Michigan side. I'm on the Lake Huron side. They originally were called the Four Sounds, but now they're called the Three Sounds. So it began with, there was Gene Harris on piano, Andrew Simpkins bass, Bill Dowdy on drums. But there was also Lonnie the Sounds Walter. He was part of the group when they originally started. Lonnie the Sounds Walter, playing sax. The sax wasn't working. They weren't liking it. And so Lonnie went out. Well, they kept sounds, they went from the Four Sounds down to the Three Sounds. This is one of Blue Note's top-selling artists. These guys did well. They did 9 different albums for Blue Note. Some would call it lounge jazz. It has that kind of feel. It's a jazz for the masses, jazz for the white folk. It is. It's just, you get into an elevator, the Three Sounds might come out. But there's more to it than that. I kind of thought of it more as like a Vince Girardi, thinking of Charlie Brown. The piano goes, the piano's in the forefront. It's tinkling, it's playing. There's this walking bass line going up and down. And the drums just have a really nice backbeat rhythm to it. I found the music quite enjoyable. Actually, I found another one of these. Got these at my local store here in town, also at Radio Wasteland, and it was an original press. It's really cool. I was unfamiliar with this group. Just heard that originally out of Michigan. So it's Black Orchid. This was the last album that they did for Blue Note, their 9th one. These guys, they played till 1973, then they broke up. Then they started in 1956. When a solo musician would come in town, oftentimes they would be a supporting band for them. And they put out a lot of albums. They really did. But again, a lighter jazz type feel. Can't play a sample. Everything's blocked. Is it really? No kidding. For you to kind of give a listen to. But lighter jazz. I would have to say it's you're not going to have the hard driving bop, but it's happy. Kind of a light blues type feel, shall we call it? Good stuff. Moving right along. Couple albums here from Iggy Pop. I have this one. You see the back wall. I got an original right there. But it's not in the best shape. So again, Barnes & Noble had a half price sale. Yeah, I'm still trying to get through all those. I've listened to most of them, I just haven't shown them. So The Idiot was his first solo album. He did this. He went with Bowie over to Berlin. We talked about this when I did the Berlin thing. He had just checked himself out of a mental hospital. Figured, I need to kind of do something about myself, and he did. So he checked himself into a mental hospital and came out, Him and Bowie went and they made this album together. It is definitely different. You can feel the Berlin vibe of Bowie in here, much more subdued. But you had Sister Midnight's on here, Night Clubbing, who Grace Slick made the best killer rendition ever. China Girl is on here, who Bowie took and brought it to the masses. I'm sure made Pop a ton of money just off the rights, the copyrights on that. I picked up this. This is a live recording from the Stooges from 1970. They're putting out more and more of these kind of a bootleg live recording type things. Label on gray, kind of a neat little label there, isn't that? It's really muddy. It's the sound quality isn't there. I like to try to get these to get a feel for that band. What do they sound like? I don't care if it's raw, because that's how they were playing. Let me hear what it sounds like. The thing is, on here the bass is kind of maybe too loud in the mix. Vocals and that are kind of buried in. It wasn't a great recording of it, but it's still 1970 Stooges. Saw it. Hey, let's give that a listen to. All right, there we go. Thank you, everyone. Heading off to Dallas this week. Damn it, it still went long. I thought I went fast. So looking forward to meeting up with a cast of characters this coming week to do some record shopping, and we'll send those pictures out probably next week. So thank you for dropping by, everyone. Really do appreciate it. As always, please comment and tell me what you like, don't like, whatever. Doesn't matter to me. Have a good day. Cat says meow.